It ended with a great disappointment and an outrage, actually, when the judge decided, despite overwhelming arguments on behalf of Julian, that he would not be allowed to step out of the glass cage and actually sit with his lawyers in the courtroom next time when the hearings here will be commenced in May. I say it's an outrage because his lawyers presented rulings from the European Court of Human Rights from Strasbourg, where it was ruled that in similar circumstances it was totally against the principle of fair trial to keep an individual in a glass cage. Let me just point out to you that he has difficulty communicating with his lawyers. They are turning his back on him, and the only time actually he was able to get attention from his lawyers were when we in the gallery or members of the press saw him giving a signal, and we could point to the lawyers that he was trying to get attention. He could not speak to his lawyers except to this small narrow gap in the bulletproof glass separating him from his lawyers. And every time he did so, he was being overheard by the members of the opposition, basically the Americans. He was also being listened to by the security guards who are with him in the glass cage. And let me remind you that these are not officials of the court. These are members of a private security company called Serco, and we have rather a bad history with trusting them. Of course, I'm referring to the spying by the security company in the embassy of Ecuador, spying that was done on behalf of the American intelligence. It is an outrage that after the presentation of his lawyers for almost an hour, pointing out all the arguments for this non-violent intellectual to sit among his lawyers in the courtroom, the judge read out a pre-written ruling that she had already written before she entered the court this morning, before she heard the argument. So once more, after these 4 days, you get a strong indication that this is not a fair trial, that Julian will not get any fairness out of this court, and I am absolutely outraged. We've heard examples that everywhere, all around the world, it is a common normal practice out of dignity and fairness that a defendant sits with his lawyer. Even in America, accused murderers sit beside the lawyers in a courtroom without shackles. In this instance, we are talking about a publisher and a journalist fighting extradition who is put in a glass cage. It's impossible for him to have a fair trial under this condition, and the obvious bias shown by the judge in this case. The week has now come to an end with this bleak note and does not give us any hope there would be any fairness to be found in this court.